the mastermind behind Quality Control HQ, one of the UK's best current labels. Releasing not only some of the best UK hardcore bands such as Violent Reaction, Payday, Mastermind, Game, The Flex, Big Cheese and more, but also bands from around the world such as Fury, Foreseen, No Tolerance and again many more. Ola, alongside Game guitarist Callum, also organises Damages Done Festival in London. The Start ended up making a live tape from our audio of the London set, which you can pick up from Advanced Perspective in the US. Advanced Perspective is a label that works alongside Quality Control on many of their releases. Game took influences from all over, from Japanese hardcore to speed metal to UK82 bands, with Ola switching between Polish and English lyrics. With these influences, No One Wins, the debut LP from Game, is one of the most interesting hardcore LPs I've heard in a long time. Arms Race are one of the main bands behind the new wave of British hardcore movement. The band played endlessly all across Europe, America and even made it out to Japan as well. They played their last show at Damages Done Festival in London on the 22nd of November 2019 at Damaging Arms. Ola has played in Game, Farce, Stab, Arms Race as well as many more. Callum is the vocalist of Obstruct, whose No Life EP I'd fully recommend. He's also played in Farce, Violent Reaction and Shrapnel. Bassist Nicky Rat has also played in Arms Race, The Annihilated and Subdued, as well as creating incredible artwork for a huge list of bands. Drummer Jonah Falco is originally from Canada and recently put out a song with Power Trip's Rarely Gale under the name Masterpiece Machine. Jonah also played in Fucked Up and Killer Suicide. This interview was filmed after the Blind Authority last show on Saturday the 16th of March 2019 at the New Cross Inn in London.
That's got to be 2002 or 3, and it was Carry On at the Underworld. And I remember I went to the gig with my punk friends, and there was a bunch of hardcore people. I never seen like the more sort of sports wearing people at a gig before, and then they had a fight in the pit. And later on, I realised they were reenacting The Edge of Quarrel, which is a very famous video, punks versus hardcore kids. But they settled it. It was fine. So yeah, apparently that was enough for me to be hooked to hardcore, and I was like, oh, I need to get more into this. I don't know why that was the case, but yeah, I mean, I already was into it, but it was just like, obviously I went to the gig because I wanted to see Carry On. But it was sort of like, seeing it live as an experience is very different to like just listening to it on your own in your bedroom. So yeah, and it was like, whoa, this is awesome, like people going crazy. So I was just like, yeah, I need to be a part of this. This is where I need to be, like the chaos element of it. Like today's Blind Authority set, like the chaos element is like what really attracts me to hardcore. So I was like, yeah, this is where I need to be in my life. With Game, it's a case of I would classify myself as like Anglopole if I had to classify myself as anything, and that's because my parents are Polish, and then I grew up in London. I was born here, but very much like in the Polish community, and actually it was my first language was Polish until I went to school, and then I had to learn English. But now I would say like English is my primary language, but it's just always switching, and it's very like half and half. And it's quite interesting because I think that my experience as like the diaspora of Poland is very common for my generation, being like first generation, in that we learn Polish from our parents, but our parents didn't they stopped developing the language when they got here. So people often say, oh, you speak like my grandma, which is quite funny. But I think that's a common experience for diaspora kids. So yeah, I would say, yeah, definitely half and half, and I think in half and half, and yeah, I can switch between it. But then again, when I started going to like hardcore shows, some of the first people that approached me and became friends with me were Polish people that had come here because Poland joined the EU, so there was like a whole new generation of Polish people, and in fact even before like the EU, they just came over anyway. And so like, and then you had bands like Liar and Sunrise, and they were like playing here, and I was just like, oh wow, like I didn't even know that hardcore kids or people in Poland existed, and I met them, and then they got me into veganism, and it became a big part of my life because they also lived in the same area that I did at the time. So which is like West London in Ealing. It's very well known as a Polish community there. So yeah, I was just like, that's how I realised there was actually a punk and hardcore scene in Poland, is meeting Polish people here. So yeah. I was living in New York for a year on an internship thing, and basically like it was 2009 to 2010, no 2010 to 2011, and I was like really lucky in that was the year that like the new sort of generation of New York punks started to make bands. So I saw this band called Crazy Spirit, and actually they just had their last show, so it was like a weird end of an era experience for me. So I was like watching it through the internet, but they had just put out a demo, and it was a cassette, and I was just like, this is too good to be just on a cassette. And at the time I'd already made friends in the UK with people that did records, and I was a huge record collector. Like, it's just like a thing that I do. I love old records, and I'm like an avid collector, and that's what I spend my money on, so it's my addiction. So I knew a bit about records, and I was really lucky that I was surrounded by people that were supportive, like Ellis from Static Shock, or Paco from La Vie des Sourds, or Ruction Records, and you know, they were just like giving me advice on how to put out records, because I was really like thinking about it. But then when I saw Crazy Spirit, I was like, this has to be my first record. So then I actually like took the tape. I went to Abbey Road Studios, because at the time you could do this. So you could go to Abbey Road Studios, be given a cup of tea in an Abbey Road Studios mug, and watch like some really high-end mastering person like just like mastered this thing for vinyl for you and cut it to copper on a copper plate for you right in front of you. And it was still affordable, so I was just like, it's not anymore. But like at the time, I was like, this is amazing. And it was like 2011. So I actually we manually, you know, everything was done so really cool process just to see like this tape be ripped off its source and put on vinyl, and then out come these like copper plates, and then you tape them to the record vinyl pressing plant, and then you've made your first record. And then the band sent me these like eraser stickers erasers that they'd made, and they were actually stamped. So then I had to like manually do like 20 different stamps on each record, and I was just like, this is the highest level of nerd you could ever think of. And I was like, I love it. This is what I need to do in my life. So that's what I've been doing ever since. And it was kind of this thing where it's like, I always think about Wayne's World when they quote like, oh, if you book them, they will come. And it's like, I started the record label, and I was like, oh, I really hope I can like support the local scene. And at the same time, like all these new bands were coming out, and it was like Violent Reaction, Abolition was around, like Iron Curtain. And then I also, with people, started bands as well. So for me, that was like Sab and then Leah Arms Race. And then like I was like, oh, well now there's bands, and we can just I'll put them out. And then now it's primarily just a UK hardcore label. So yeah. Okay, so like Abolition, I would say, was sort of like really important in that they, you know, were bringing back a style of hardcore that probably like hadn't really been thought of in a long time, and like sort of brought with them a load of kids that got into that style of hardcore, and then all of those same kids did exactly the same thing in that they evolved to be more into older 80s New York hardcore and like 80s style of hardcore in general. So like that's when they all kind of veered into Violent Reaction, and then you had like Arms Race and Obstruct and like the Flex, and we're all just taking from the same kind of source material, I would say, but bringing like a very British twist to it. When I say British, I mean very loosely in the sense that we just live here, you know. So I think it's sort of they're both like important milestones in the evolution of a generation of hardcore in the UK, and that generation is now getting into their 30s. and we're seeing a whole new generation, which is so exciting. Like I'm seeing all these new kids turn up to shows and they're like pitting hard and they're making bands, and it's like what I really like about the new generation is that they don't care about like, because I think for a little while there was a bit of an unnecessary border between hardcore and punk, and this new generation, like I would say like 18 to 23 year olds, they don't care about that. They're just bringing it all together. I'll see the same kids at like hardcore shows as I'll see in like punk shows, like Static Shock Weekend, the same people as today's Blind Authority gig, you know, and I love that, and I think that's what's going to make UK hardcore strong for a long time. And we need that resilience right now, especially with like Brexit happening, and we don't know what's going to happen with that. We need a strong scene here. We can't just rely on other people because they might have limited access to us and vice versa in the future. Yeah, so the main one I guess was Stab. I did that with Nick Sarnella, who sings in Arms Race, and we also had like Ben Fordry, who is like bands like Semi, and he actually has moved to Australia. He just come back though. He actually painted my jacket. It's my favorite band of all time, Blitz. And then we had this guy called Max. Crusty Max, who is definitely from the crusty scene. So it was a beautiful time when there were so few of us. We all just stuck together, like crusties, punks, hardcore kids, whoever, skinheads. It doesn't matter. We were all just going to the same shows, and so you had a band like Stab where you brought all those people together in a room and see what happens. So something that I was really passionate about and still am is the 80s style of UK hardcore, which is like Ripcord and Heresy. Primarily Intense Degree, all those kinds of bands, and playing really fast is like a very UK approach to hardcore. So like the most sort of the most obvious answer to, example of that being Napalm Death. Like they invented a whole genre basically, whether it was by accident or not. And then and I would say that's something I'm still really love that style, and I do that with Farce now. So I'm in Farce with Callum from Game and Culprit and Shrapnel, and then Adam Rogers, who's been in Bitter Youth, Last Wishes, a bunch of bands, Mere Mortal, of course now. Oh yeah, definitely. Whoops. And Jotty, who's previously in Runt. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. I actually think what I would say is I think people should be tough on London, expect more from London, just because it is like way bigger than all the other cities. So the next biggest city is Manchester and then Birmingham, and it's like, well, I would say for a little while, like in terms of like the more hardcore style of music, Leeds was like thrashing London, and like that shouldn't be the case considering how many people there are. So there's room for scenes here, and I think now it's like had a bit of a dip, but it's coming back now to a point where it's like people are doing loads of bands. What they should be doing, which is enjoying the diversity that this city can offer, and like all the amenities, and like it is a little tougher because everything's very expensive. So like practicing is expensive. You can do it. You've just got to like kind of do your research, ask people like how do you do this, how do you do that, and figure it out. But like. And I think we're very lucky in that New River Studios and DIY Space for London and now New Cross Inn are great spaces that will allow us to play shows, which ultimately is what a scene needs in order to grow. If you don't have a venue, you can't do anything, basically. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. I think for us, like, for Arms Race, like, Japan was definitely a very humbling experience, and amazing that people were so into it, and yeah, we were, like, so grateful. On the other hand, like, You know, you'll play some shows with less people and it doesn't really matter. You do that in Europe and you do that in your hometown and you do that in like US or wherever. It's like about the experience and you know, some shows are like massive and you're like, what is this? What am I doing? Oh my God, this is amazing. And then some shows you're like 20 people, but it'll be like so insane. And like people will be throwing stuff and like going crazy and you're like, well, that's just as good, isn't it? You know? Yeah. And I think we've been really good at promoting UK hardcore in the last like 5-6 years. I think like we've been working so hard, all of us. Like people like you are documenting what we're doing, and it's so important. Otherwise, no one knows anything we're doing. Like, and you know, we're all just supporting each other and like doing bands. And I think that's really important, and that's why people are listening to what we're doing, and as well as we're always just trying to do something different. I would say in like the mid-2000s, you know, there was bands, but a lot of them maybe weren't confident enough to stand on their own 2 feet. They just wanted to sound like American bands. And I think now we're just like, well, we have our own scene, we don't really need anyone else. So it's like, cool, you know, we're just going to make our own sounds. And like, yeah, of course, we're going to mine from like the classics, you know, whether that's Boston, New York, 80s, 90s, Cleveland, whatever. But like we'll make it our own, and we know how to do that well. I think that's a skill that UK hardcore bands really germinate here and support each other to like push each other to do that well. And I think that's something really interesting that UK does in particular. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll go with an old one and a new one. So one of the ones that I would say for me still sticks out for Arms Race is we played Damage City Fest at the Pinch, which is like quite a small venue, but like it was so packed and like people were going insane, and I've never seen a reaction to a band that I've been in like that before in my entire life. And Andy Jones from the Flex got a bit blasted and kept walking over the drum kit whilst we were playing, and it was amazing, and I loved it. I love that chaos element. That's what I'm addicted to. It's more chaotic about like a band or a gig, the better for me. And then the most recent one for me was for Game actually. We played a gig with Stigmatism in Belgium, in Brussels, and it was this amazing club. The local scene there is like really growing and flourishing. There's a new band there called Instructor, sound like Kickback, really cool, check them out. And like the book does this show, and it was literally like 15-year-old skinheads like going ape shit, and I was just like, what is happening? I was like, this is so good. And it was like punk skins, like hardcore kids, like everyone was going mental. And then we finished, and then the club also hosts like Congolese nights, and so this live Congolese band came on, like that's what they called themselves, and yeah, they played it, and then everyone just like danced to that. So yeah, it was brilliant. It kind of reminded me of like old hardcore videos, like just everyone together. I actually opened the set by saying punks and skins united as one, and all the 15-year-old skinheads really loved that. They went crazy for that, so that was good. Yeah. Okay, so for me, the bands that I would see regularly was like The Break-In, The Last Chance. That was like the band. We were like so in love with them. Yeah, that's right, Alex. You were too young for that. Yeah, The Last Chance was like this band. I think in this one 7-inch that they put out was like the second 7-inch. Literally, I'm in every mosh shot. Like, it's so funny. And, you know, like this, we were so proud. We were like, wow, yeah. Having said that, at the time, the bands that were thrashing it in Europe were the Belgian bands. So that was Justice and Dead Stop. So, like, I think we used to go to Belgium, like, once a month. Because, yeah, it was very exciting. Take the Eurostar or, like, the ferry. And we would just go to the same town in Belgium once a month to see these amazing bands, and we were like so excited. So I would say those definitely were part of it. And then for UK, it was like Last Chance, The Legacy, November Coming Fire. Yeah, On Thin Ice. I actually put on a show, like all those bands and Knuckle Dust. It was very exciting times. Yeah, and I really look on those times really fondly. Like, there was like decent, like 200 people coming to every show back then. Like, people went crazy, and like we all marched hard. And it's really nice. I feel like it's kind of slipped down to like maybe 100 people per local show now, but last year. But then since last year, I think like end of last year and then this beginning of this year, it's like every show is suddenly like 300 people again, which is amazing. So to me, this is a great time. I'm like so pumped on 2019, and I'm so glad 2018's over. Yeah, we just need to get this Brexit shit out of the way, and then we can just enjoy life again, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's going to happen in like 2020 by then.
Yeah, well, you're going to secede by then, so...
Scotland's just going to cut itself off.
God.
It's just going to saw and fly away from
so
England.
Bad.
It's going to be great.
Oh, it's such a nightmare. Yeah, actually no, but realistically, actually, this is quite interesting. Maybe you can cut it out if it's not.
No.
That for like record labels, we're all kind of really worried because a lot of the best pressing plants that we use are in Europe.
Yeah.
So you're buying from Europe, so then they have to send it to you. So that's an import, and then. Like, I'm not joking you, like 80% of my customers are from Europe, so that's an export again. So what are these trade rules going to be? When bands want to tour Europe, what's it going to be like? Is it going to be like when you tour America and you kind of have to deal with like shifty, you know? And it's just really heartbreaking because like we are part of Europe. Europe and UK are working really closely together more than like since the days of like Justice and Death stuff, I would say. Like half the room today was from Europe. Like they made the show happen, like as much as the people from the UK. And it's like really heartbreaking, and like we need to do more as a community, like get ourselves voices out there, you know. And I think, you know, we all need to like step up a little bit, I think. Yeah. But again, it is hard because we're all like everyone else, just suddenly I have no idea what's happening, what can I do? I feel really helpless. These people are just taking control and we have no voice. So I guess the only thing you can do is like sign up for People's Vote and get involved that way. But yeah, it's really heartbreaking, and I hope it doesn't happen. Or at least we get free trade, I don't know.
The one time Scotland and London actually agreed with
Yeah.
the same vote for
Yeah.
no, whereas
Yeah.
everyone else is a fucking idiot.
Yeah, well, it's that classic thing of cities voting for one thing because they're used to like a more diverse community, and then rural areas voting for another thing, you know. But we see that in the US, we see that in other places, and that's why these more right-wing people are getting in, you know, into power. But anyway, that's another conversation. But yeah, just thought I'd add that. Okay, so UK hardcore wise, obviously I think Big Cheese are like doing some incredible things. They've really nailed that like late 80s, early 90s style, bringing in really interesting flares into the riffs, and like Alex as a drummer is incredible, and I think that like their LP is gonna blow everyone up, so I'm really excited. I would say Payday is another one if you love like the Clevo style hardcore that maybe you shouldn't admit you're listening to sometimes, but you want to do it in a way that like is by people who care and like are, you know, not that way inclined, then yeah, Payday's your thing, and their new LP is so many dive bombs. It's unreal. So if you love dive bombs, Payday's the one. Then I would say I'm really excited about, what else am I excited about? Warheads. Warheads, I would say, incredible. Like the demo, like blew everyone away. So nice to see Tom Curry back on vocals. Yeah, I hope they do more. I haven't heard too many gigs announcements, but it would be nice to see them play more.
I know they did like an Irish show, but I don't think they've
Yeah,
done much other than that.
yeah. So I want to see more from them for sure. That demo was flawless. And then let's see. Can I do some punk bands? Yeah. All right. Cool. So for punk, definitely Subdued. I like nailing the like amoebics style of like crass records, like anarcho, but like gothy, like Vex and all those like old UK like goth like anarcho bands. I just it's so good. And their LP is gonna nail everyone to the wall as well, so definitely check that out. There's so many LPs coming out. Stages in Faith LP, and then I would say I'm really interested in this band called Power Plant. It is like hardcore and punk affiliated, but they're more like modern method Devo-esque like style, and that's like members of that were all at the gig today, members of Desire, and I think members of Subdued and Arms Race and stuff. So you should check out the Power Plant tape as well. And yeah, there's like a bunch. I mean, I could just reel off what I'm putting out soon, and that would be like shameless self-promotion. So you should just follow me on Instagram, and then you can find out all you need to know about UK Hardcore plus related. But no, I feel weird tooting my own horn like that. But it isn't about me anymore, is it? It's about the community. So.
Yeah, but you made the community grow. Like, you're doing so much for it.
I'm just there in the background, keeping it going, like, little bits and pieces. But I definitely, there's so much going on right now. I'm very excited. There's loads going on in Scotland, and I need to get an education on that, because I haven't even played Scotland in ages, and like, the way I learn is very old school. It's still like face to face. So I need to like do that so I can learn more about all these bands.